Hi y'all, bonjour, hola, my name is Trish. If you're new, welcome. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to create this logo design in Photoshop. Shall we begin? Thank you all for responding to the poll, and because of that, we get to work on a logo design in Photoshop. Go to File, click on New. So we're going to choose a 10 by 10 with a resolution of 300. Now, for your background, you want to make sure that you choose transparent, and we're going to go ahead and click on Create. We are going to use letters to come up with our logo. So you want to pick up your type tool, and we're going to go ahead and type in our text. I'm going to pick up my type tool, and I'm going to use Poppins font. So I'm going to go ahead to click inside my canvas, and I'm going to type in Q. So Q will be one of the font, and I'm going to go ahead to just scale it. And I'm going to make a copy of this. So Command J, make a copy, and I'm going to pull this on the side, double click and type in D. So basically this is going to be a Quistt design. You know, I have Quistt Photoshop, but today I want to do Quistt design. So I'm going to hold both, set that in the center, and I'm going to scale it like this. Highlight my D, and I'm just going to make it white. So before we move on, since the white is clashing with the background, I'm going to go ahead, click on my Q, and I'm going to go ahead to add a solid color in the background so that our design pops while we do it, but when we are done, we just have to turn it off. So you want to go under Shapes, and you want to pick your Ellipse tool. Now hold down Shift so you can draw a straight or an even circle. Now we want to go under our property, and we want to leave the fill empty, but our stroke, we want to make it white, and we want to increase the pixels so it's a little bit bigger. And I'm going to click on my Path Select tool, and I'm going to move my shape and put it in the center like that. I'm going to go ahead to scale it down and just center it. So you can use your up and down arrow to set it in place. Now we want to go back to our fill and our stroke, and we want to decrease our stroke thickness so it's a little bit smaller. So I'm going to just make a duplicate. So I'm going to click on my shape, Command J, make a duplicate. Now we want to make this bigger. So you can hold down your Shift and scale it. And we're going to set that out here. And I'm just going to go ahead and scale that down. Click on our stroke for the outside circle, and we want to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to click on our shape, and we want to change the color to black. So we have these three color scheme going on. Now what I'm going to do is that we want to turn our letters now into shapes so that we can cut out some areas. So we're going to right click on the letters, and we're going to convert to Smart Object. I'm going to do the same thing for the Q into a Smart Object. So we're going to do the same thing for our shapes. So we're going to right click, convert to a Smart Object, right click, convert to a Smart Object. Now none of these are editable anymore. So when you're working on your design, make sure that you are satisfied before you convert into a Smart Object. So with this set, what I'm going to do is that I need to add a layer mask to the letters. So I'm going to click on my layer and then add a layer mask. I'm going to repeat that for the D as well. So we're going to click on the circle in the middle, the ellipse, hold down Command, make a selection of that. Now we want to go on the letter Q, and we're going to pick up our brush tool with our foreground as black. We want to cut out this shape in our Q. So I'm going to turn off the eclipse, and with my brush tool, I'm just going to go ahead and just hide this portion with my black, just like that. Now I'm going to do a similar thing with the D, but this time it will be the reverse. So Command D to deselect. Now I want to cut out the Q portion around the D. So I'm going to hold down Command, make a selection of the D, go up to select, and you want to go to modify and click on expand. Now we want to expand our pixels to 10, click OK. Now you see that little expand. Now if you want to expand it further, you can do it, but I'm going to leave it like this, and we're going to click on the Q, and we are going to erase. So basically we have this detail, and I'm going to press Command D. Now you can see that there's a little bit of a cutout between the Q and the D. Now the next thing we are going to do is that we want to also cut out some portions of our outer eclipse. So we want to make sure we have that layer selected, and I'm going to hold down my Command, make a selection of that, and I'm going to turn this off. So what I'm going to do is click on your D and basically erase that portion. So we have something like this, and I'm going to also do the same thing for the Q. Click on the Q and erase this portion where the eclipse falls on the red. Command D to deselect. So this is what we basically have. I'm going to go ahead to turn on the eclipse, but you really can see the hidden portion of the D. So now what we are going to do is that we want to go ahead and make a selection of our D. So go back to the D, hold down Command, make a selection of that. Now we want to expand that as well. So go under selection, click on modify, expand. Now we want to expand it back to the 10, just like we had before. We want to get rid of the black on top of the D. So click on your D, click on your eclipse, select, and click on inverse. So if you add a layer mask, basically it cuts out that portion of your circle. And so if I zoom in, you see that we have this sort of detail. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and I am going to bring in a texture image, which I will make available for you to practice with. So I'm going to bring in this image, and I'm just going to go ahead and scale it. So to bring in an image, open it on your computer, drag and drop it into your working file. So now you have two options. You can clip your image to the entire design, or you can choose to clip it to portions of your design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this layer, and I'm going to put it right in between the D and the letter, and I'm going to hold down Command, and I'm just going to go ahead holding down Options to clip it. So now that I've clipped it, you notice that the image is only applied to the Q and not the D. Now I want to add a bit of interest, so we are going to change the blend mode of this. So go under your blend mode option, and you can begin to play with the different effect. I'm going to go ahead to choose darken. So we have this cool effect. I'm going to zoom out. You want to make a selection of your bottom image, not the background. Move all the way up, hold down Shift, select the top layer. It will select all your layers, and then click on the folder for group, and it will group everything. So if we want to add a shadow, we can double click on our group, and it will bring up the layer style dialog box. Now we can go ahead and add a shadow, and that shadow effect is applied to everything. Now we can click on our shadow. If it's too much, we can play with our shadow distance if we want. Even the angle, we can change it, as well as the opacity. We can even take the opacity down so that the shadow effect is not too much. We can go ahead and click OK. So if you zoom in, you notice that you have this nice detail for your logo. Now, if I turn off the background, you see that it still looks good. Now I can turn back on my background, double click, and even choose a different color. I'm gonna click OK. Now there's another alternative. If you want to apply the texture on both letters, you can do that easily by dragging the texture layer above the letters. Now you want to go ahead and group these two letters. So make a selection of the first one, hold down Shift, select the second one, and then group that. Once you have it grouped, you can basically clip your brush texture, your texture image onto both. So hold down Options and clip it. Click on your logo and maybe add a curves adjustment. Now you can play with it and just lighten up your entire logo. So you have something very cool and very interesting like that. Depending on how much you want to see that detail, you can have something this interesting. Now I'm going to go ahead to take off the background to show you how the logo will look like. Once you have your logo complete, now you want to save it. You need to first of all save the PSD file. So go to Save As and then go to the folder where you want to save your image. So in this case, I want to save it on my desktop, and I'm just going to go ahead and rename this logo, and I'm going to save it, and I'm going to click OK. Now you want to save it as a PNG. Now with a PNG, it has no background and you can use it for whatever you want. So you want to go to File, Save As, and this time instead of saving it as Photoshop, you want to go ahead and choose PNG. Now PNG are images without a background. Now we can go ahead and click on Save, and it will ask you the file size. We want to click on large file size and go ahead and click OK. Now let's say that we already have an image and we want to bring in our logo. So I'm going to go ahead to pull in an image. To test our logo, we want to bring in the PNG to see if it will come in without a background. So go to your folder and open up the folder where you have it saved. Now you have two options. You have the PSD, which is the working file, and you have the PNG. Now that is what you want to bring in. So we're going to go ahead to pull this image in, and I'm going to go ahead to scale it and set that in the corner so you can basically see it. Now, because of the gray and the blue, you really can't see it well. So I'm going to show you a little trick of how you can use the burn tool, which helps you even when you have things that are overlay. So with the burn tool selected, we can click on our background image, unlock it, and watch what happens when I use the burn tool. The burn tool basically makes anything or any area darker. So you can see that it all of a sudden, that area which was blending in with the logo now is darker, and it makes your logo pop. So that is just a little trick that I want to share with you all. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye y'all.